Hi, welcome back. This will be part 11 in the character texture creation tutorial series. Last video we talked about how to import textures or apply the textures back into Maya from Substance Painter. And that's a process if you do not have any opacity detail. If you have parts of your model such as this cloth that has opacity maps that we're going to be importing, we cannot do it that same direct way. There's two reasons. So one reason is that the file is saved as a PNG file. So this opacity map is a PNG file, and Maya will not accept transparencies of PNG files correctly. It distorts it and doesn't apply it correctly to the model. The second thing is in the material editor for the Stingray PBS material, there is no option to import in a separate opacity map. So we're going to have to change the default standard to a transparency one. And the only way we can get an opacity map to work in Maya is to apply that opacity map as an alpha channel to the color map. And then Maya's Stingray PBS material will read the alpha channel of the color map for what to make transparent or opaque in the material and object. So we'll run through that process in this video. So we need to use Photoshop or any other image editing tool to add the opacity detail into the alpha channel of the base color map. So in Photoshop, I'm going to open up that base color map for my cloth. There you go, male model textures, and find my base color map. So this is just for the cloth. But if your character only has one texture map for the entire body, accessories, everything else, then you would do this for the main body base color as well. So there's my texture map for the cloth, the base color. And then what I'm going to do is go to File, Place Embedded, and place that opacity map in here. So one thing you will notice, let's hit Enter, is the opacity map as default has a transparent background, but that's not the areas that we want to be transparent. We want that transparent area actually should be opaque, so that really should be white, and these black areas are the areas we want to be transparent. It's okay, because what we're going to do is we're going to double click on that background, which is the base color layer, and just click OK, so that makes it so it's editable. And we need to add this to an alpha channel. So if I go to the channels, there's only red, green, and blue channels in the combined RGB. So what we're going to do is with that opacity layer, I'm going to hold down Control and click on that layer so that we'll select all of the black areas, which are the areas we want to be transparent. And then I'm going to go back and click on my base color layer and go over to channels. With this selected, what's going to be the transparent areas, we're going to come down here in the channels and click Save Selection as Channel. When I do that, this actually creates an alpha channel. So there's 4 channels for every image, red, green, and blue, and then the 4th one is alpha. So with this alpha channel, I can turn that on, and that will show the red areas. The red areas are what's going to be transparent. So I can actually turn off my cloth opacity layer now and see what areas are going to be transparent. Now what actually it did was did the inverse of what we want. We really want these other areas to be the transparent areas, and then the areas that are red now to be opaque. So if I go to channels and I'm going to select that preview for the alpha, I need to invert this. So if I go up to Image, Adjustments, Invert, whoops, actually I'm going to do the opposite way of doing this. So instead, that kind of makes everything transparent. So let's can that alpha channel, and let's go back to Layers, hold down Control on the cloth opacity preview, and go back to our base color layer, and let's do Select Inverse. Okay, so that'll select the opposite areas. And then in the channels, we're going to go back and do Create Mask. And let's turn on that mask. There we go. That's exactly what we wanted. So we wanted the black areas to actually be red, which would be transparent. So let's hit Control D to deselect. I do need to come back and kind of clear up some of these. I'll try to blend some of that middle area. So with the alpha channel selected, I'm going to go, let's turn off the opacity layer. Okay. And with that alpha channel selected, I'm going to get my brush tool, scaled up some, and I'm just going to paint over this middle area so that way that middle area is not going to have any opaque detail to it. And a couple of spikes from the way it did the aliasing on there. So that way that entire middle area is filled in. Go back and clean it up with the black brush color. That will add to the opacity. If I do a white brush color, that removes from the opacity. Alright, so that's it. We're ready to save this out. So we have the alpha channel visible. We can have it turned on or off to still save the alpha channel. But the opacity detail is in the alpha channel of my base color file. Now we just need to save this out properly. So if I go to File, Save As, I'm going to use that same folder, but I can't save it as a PNG because Maya will not accept transparencies as PNGs properly. So I just want to choose a different format, and the format I usually use is TIFF. So just for the base color file that has the opacity, I'm just changing that file format to TIFF. The rest of the texture maps for PBR system are going to stay as PNGs. So I usually will say cloth base color underscore opacity. Okay, or you can say alpha or whatever you want to call it. I want to turn off layers, but make sure alpha channels is selected. Make sure you're in the right folder as well. Let's do save. We're going to do none image compression, interlace up at the top. All right, and that's it. So now within our texture folder, we have our PNG base color, and then we have our base color with opacity TIFF. You can even see from this preview that it is cutting out the areas properly. So the areas that I want to be transparent or have a white background, which is just shows the same as this white background here. So you know it's saved properly. All right, that'll be it for this video. The last video we'll come back and apply the textures with opacity back into Maya properly.